Welcome to Rewiring Health, where you'll find a combination of science and spirituality to reclaim your health and realize your worth. I'm your host, Kelly Kessler, and I'm on a mission to help you stop self-abandoning and start embracing yourself. Join me as we dive into heart-centered, authentic conversations that not only will inspire you, but help you unlock a whole new perspective. You are here for a reason. Now let's dive in. If you asked me a few years ago if I was abandoning myself, I most likely would have said no, or what is that? Because when you abandon yourself, you get so used to living in the survival mode that you're not even aware of the behaviors, thoughts, and patterns that are taking over your life and consuming you day in and day out. And see, a few years ago, I was in the middle of building my house with my husband. I was pregnant, working a full-time job an hour away and a part-time job on top of that, and really just burning the candle at both ends. I was completely exhausted. I was feeling completely unfulfilled. I could not even see that I had things to be grateful for because I was in such a survival mode that I just had to keep on going. And what happened was my health declined, my overall emotional and mental well-being was severely impacted, and I saw no way out. I just thought this is just how I have to live, and this is what I have to do, and there's just no other way but to continue on like this. I stayed silent in relationships. I did not say things that I wanted to because I wanted to keep the peace. I pushed myself hard when even if I was feeling unwell, I continued to push myself, and I felt like I was only worthy when I was productive, when I had something to show for it, when I got to the end of the day and things were crossed off my list. And back then, again, that was all I knew. I just thought that I had to just keep going and that one day things would finally settle down. And I didn't realize back then that that one day would never come unless I actually took the time and energy to invest in myself and realize I was worthy of my own time and energy. And I had innate worthiness from the start. It was only when I realized that my life started to shift and change. And by no means was it an overnight process. And looking back, I can see so much transformation in myself. But as I was going through it, I really didn't see how I was changing. And so I want to share these 8 signs that you are breaking free from self-abandonment, because this may really help you continue on your journey if you are on a healing journey or if you are trying to break some of these patterns that are not serving you. It's only when we can recognize how far we're coming and how far we've come and really celebrate that our momentum behind our journey continues, and we can really recognize that we are not the same person that we were maybe a few years ago, and that we truly are starting to take care and honor ourselves. And so the first sign is that you become very clear on your values. Again, if you asked me several years ago what values were, what my values were, I really don't know if I could have answered that. I would probably just say hard work. That's all I really knew. And now I'm very clear on my values. I understand that my values are my guiding light. They are what I live by. And some of my values are peace, growth, connection. And those are things that I need to have in my life to feel fulfilled. And so then I align my life around those values. So if something is impacting my peace, then it becomes much easier for me to set boundaries and recognize that this does not align with my values. So as you're breaking free from self-abandonment, you get very clear on what your values are, and you get very clear on modifying your life so that you are in alignment with those values. You're no longer living for others' values. You really are living to feel in alignment with yourself and what is meaningful to you and your life. Number 2 is that you tune into your body. So when you are experiencing anything in life, you can become very reactive and feel like you are just using your mind to problem solve or fix a solution. But when you are breaking free from self-abandonment, you tune into your body and allow it to be a source of information. And this is where you can allow yourself to come into your body, feel what you're feeling during maybe a challenge or stressful situation, and allow the information to help you move through that experience. Back then, a few years ago, when I was experiencing this, all these challenges in my life, I really just viewed my body as the enemy. I was going through chronic back pain at that time, and which I now, in hindsight, recognize was because I was holding on to all these lower emotions and feeling this big sense of guilt in my life. It's only when I released that that I started to release the chronic back pain. And so now I recognize that my body was just only trying to tell me something, it was trying to communicate. And now I realize the power that we have within our bodies to navigate situations, to tell us what feels safe, what doesn't, and how we can cultivate safety within our bodies. Number three is asking yourself empowering questions. Back then, the questions I asked myself was, what else is going to go wrong? Why does this always happen to me? What's going to happen next? I was just waiting for the next ball to drop. Because that we were in the middle of building our house and it was like one SHIT show after another. Like it was just a complete disaster. What could have gone wrong went wrong. And it became just this frustrating process of feeling like no matter what you do, there's going to be something that is just chaotic. And that's what it felt like. So I was asking myself these questions and I was getting the answers. And the answers were, here's another thing that's going wrong. Versus now I ask myself the questions, even if it's a challenging situation, what can I learn from this? What is the lesson that I need to learn? What do I need in this moment? How can I take care of myself in this moment? And the answers I get to those questions, although I may not have them immediately, are much more fulfilling. So I'm really acknowledging myself, recognizing what I need, and allowing myself to take lessons from what challenges life presents. And so it's a much more empowering mindset versus several years ago was much more of a victim mindset. Number four is caring less about others' opinions. So when you are breaking free from self-abandonment, you don't care quite as much about what other people think. And this is something that's been a profound transformation in myself. I used to care so deeply about what other people thought of me. I would care about their opinions, how I presented myself, what did I say? I would ruminate on conversations, making sure that I was perceived in the way I wanted to be perceived. But now I am much more in tune with how I perceive myself and what's my opinion of myself? How do I view myself? And living in alignment with what feels right for me, regardless of others' opinions. And one big breakthrough with this was realizing that many people's opinions, especially if they're negatively driven, is more of a reflection of their own inner world rather than my inner world. And that was a big game changer for me. So as you break free from self-abandonment, you will start to realize that the opinion of yourself matters far more than anyone else's opinion. Number five, validating your own experience. This was huge. I was back then always looking for validation. And I would have these conversations with my one friend when I was going through all this like chaos back then. And I would just complain about things and how, again, everything was just falling apart and there's one challenge after another. But really, I look back at those moments and I was just seeking out validation. I wanted someone to say, like, yeah, this is really hard. I'm so sorry you're going through this. This is awful that you're dealing with this. Because I was not giving myself validation. I was trying to downplay it. I wasn't honoring my own emotions of what I was experiencing. I was just brushing everything under the rug and feeling like my opinion, my emotions don't matter. I felt like I just have to survive, so I can't even process what's going on right now. And so I had very little validation of myself. I felt like whatever I did was not good enough, so you just have to keep pushing harder. Now I validate myself. So when I'm going through a challenge, I say to myself, I see you and I understand this is really hard and I'm here for you and I'm not going anywhere and I love you. And it may seem so silly or foreign if this is something you're not used to, but just saying that to myself in some of those most challenging moments feels really good. And so if you do not validate yourself in this moment, the next time you have a challenge, say those words to yourself. It feels really good that you know you have your own back. You're going to take care of yourself. And then your system feels heard, it feels held. It's like a child that goes through something that's really challenging. If you were to just ignore it or dismiss it, how would that child feel? It's the same way you feel when you dismiss yourself or don't acknowledge your experience. Acknowledge what you're going through and know that some of the challenges feel so daunting at the time, but when you know that you have your own back, it allows you to navigate it much easier. Number 6 is trusting yourself. This is a huge one. So when you are self-abandoning, you are doing things for other people. You're constantly exhausting yourself just to help somebody else. And so often things that you want to do for yourself go to the wayside. So maybe it's that 5-minute walk you wanted to get in the morning, or maybe it was just taking a moment for yourself to maybe read. And you keep pushing it off and be like, I'll do it the next day. Or maybe it's getting to the gym that you've been paying the membership for, but you haven't gone to the gym. And you push it off and you say, next weekend, next month, when things settle down, after that. And you're always waiting for life to handle you this opportunity when things are actually going to calm down. Well, you know, as well as I know, that life doesn't necessarily ever calm down. And there's no golden opportunity for any of these things to happen. And what happens is that when we say we're going to do something and we don't do it, we start to lose trust within ourselves. So when you are breaking free from self-abandonment, you learn to trust yourself. You learn that you are going to show up for yourself. When you say you're going to do it, you do it. And so you develop this inner integrity of recognizing that your words to yourself mean something and they mean a lot, and that you will honor your words. When you say you're going to protect your peace, you're going to acknowledge that and actually take action in doing that. And then your system realizes, like, okay, I have my own back and I can trust myself. Number 7, making choices that feel aligned and freeing. So this is a big one. So many things I did and the choices I made were out of what I thought other people expected of me. Were out of guilt, trying to avoid guilt. Like if I didn't do this, then I would feel like I would get this guilt trip and feel maybe shameful. And so I constantly made decisions thinking like I was just trying to keep all the pieces together and what I should be doing versus what I actually wanted to do. And this becomes so exhausting trying to meet everybody's expectations of you. And it feels very constricting. But when you break free from self-abandonment, you start to make choices that feel aligned and freeing. And it feels expansive. You're doing things that you actually want. You're moving towards your desires. You're acknowledging your values. So you're making decisions that feel right for you, even if it feels wrong for somebody else. And this does not mean that you're resisting discomfort or you're avoiding discomfort, because that is always going to exist. As long as you're growing, you're going to feel uncomfortable. But through that discomfort, when you make choices, you're still feeling like there's a lightness to them. It feels more aligned with how you want to live your life. And there's just an inner feeling and knowing that this is the direction I'm supposed to go, without all the external chaos and noise telling you to do something differently. And number 8 is you're going to experience grief. When you break free from self-abandonment, grief, unfortunately, is inevitable. So you have relationships and situations that you have been a part of that got very used to you self-sacrificing for the sake of that relationship. That relationship existed because you were willing to lose yourself to some extent to keep that relationship. And so the minute you start to take back your power, the minute you start to have a voice, the minute you start to live in alignment with what feels right for you, those relationships can and often do unravel because their foundation was seated on you sacrificing yourself. And so there is a significant amount of grief that comes along with this. And I want you to know this because it's not all this beauty and expansiveness when it comes to owning your life and taking control of your life and realizing you're worthy of your own decisions in your life. It sometimes does feel like the whole outer world is unraveling. But I promise you that even though it feels like the external world is unraveling and you're losing maybe relationships and situations that once served the past version of yourself, you are no longer losing yourself. And that is something you will never regret. You may have kept that self-abandonment going unconsciously because you were trying to preserve relationships and situations. But you know probably more than anyone else that the longer you kept that going, the more unfulfilled you felt and the more drained you felt. So really only when you take back your power, have a voice, and allow yourself to grow internally, that is when you are living in alignment with yourself and you are living the life that you are meant to live. And so those are the 8 signs that you are breaking free from self-abandonment. And so if you resonate with any of these, if you're seeing any of these in your life, I want you to take a moment, take a deep breath in this moment. And I want you to recognize yourself and celebrate yourself. It is no small feat to break free from self-abandonment. You've lived maybe your entire life sacrificing yourself, burdening yourself with guilt and shame, feeling like only when you were productive you were worthy, and feeling like you had to live this perfect exterior to make sure that you were, quote, enough. But you're always enough. And when you start to take back your power and realize that you have it within you to live a life that feels aligned and free, that is when you can start to feel more fulfillment in your life. So I hope this helps you recognize some of those signs in your life and keep that momentum going and help you live a life where you truly feel free from self-abandonment. And if this feels aligned with you and you want more support and guidance, I invite you to join my community, Infinite Self Circle, where you will be surrounded by other women who are experiencing just what you are. And you will have the resources, tools, and guidance to truly allow yourself to feel the way you want to feel in your life and live the life that feels right for you. So I'll put the link in the show notes if you feel called to join the community. And thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Rewiring Health. I hope you found our conversation both enlightening and empowering. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to Rewiring Health so that you never miss an update. Also, I would love to hear your thoughts. If you could take a moment to rate and review the show, it would mean the world to me and help others discover the power that we all have within us to create change and create the life that we truly, truly desire. Thank you so much for spending your precious time with me and sharing the energy of the show.